My fiancée lied about her past, mocked my boundaries, then cheated. So I packed everything at midnight and she woke up to an empty house. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I've never been the type to fall in love easily. Maybe it's because I watched my dad get destroyed by my mom's lies growing up. Or maybe it's because I've been cheated on before. Whatever the reason, I've always kept my heart locked behind several layers of caution. So when I met Sophie, it felt like something cracked open inside me. She was warm, spontaneous, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they'd known her for years. We met at a bookstore of all places. She was arguing with the cashier about why a certain fantasy novel should be stocked in hardcover. I chimed in, joked about how she must be the hardcover police, and she laughed. That laugh, it pulled me in before I even realized what was happening. We started dating, and for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel guarded. She was affectionate, fun, quick-witted, and always said she didn't believe in dragging baggage into new relationships. According to her, she had 2 exes. Nothing serious, both mutual breakups. Clean slate, that's the exact phrase she used. I'm bringing you a clean slate. 3 months in, she moved into my apartment. Everything felt right. Our routines synced, we cooked together, stayed up watching dumb crime documentaries, had deep late-night conversations. I thought, maybe I'm finally one of the lucky ones. I remember standing in the kitchen one evening while she sang along to the radio off-key and thinking, this is it. This is the person I'm going to marry. The word fiancé didn't feel scary with her. It felt like home. But back then, I had no idea how much of her clean slate was built on buried lies, and the first crack didn't come from anything she said. It came from something she laughed at. I've been cheated on once before back in college. It wrecked me. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was humiliated. My ex had told everyone before she told me, like I was the punchline in some private joke. Since then, I've had one rule in relationships. If you're ever tempted, just tell me. I can handle pain, but I can't handle betrayal. So early on with Sophie, maybe 3 weeks into dating, I brought it up. We were lying in bed, tangled up in a warm silence, and I said, just so you know, I don't do second chances with cheating. If you ever feel something for someone else, promise me you'll be honest. No drama, no fights, just don't lie to me. She stared at me for a second and then laughed. Like, really laughed. Wow, she said, grinning. Who hurt you that bad? I froze for a second, then tried to play it cool. Just past stuff. It's not about you, but she kept going. So what? If I kissed someone at a party, you'd just pack up and leave? That's dramatic, babe. I smiled, but inside I felt my stomach twist. She wasn't hearing me. Worse, she mocked the one boundary I needed most. Later, with friends, she started making jokes. Don't flirt with me too hard, she once said to a bartender. My man's got trust issues. Cue the laughter. Even her cousin once nudged me and said, you got her on lockdown, huh? It was like my boundary became her favorite party trick. I tried to talk to her again calmly. She said, why are you so sensitive about jokes? I would never cheat on you. You're the safest guy I've ever been with. Safe. That word clung to me like an insult disguised as a compliment. I told myself it was harmless. Just teasing. Just Sophie being Sophie. But the first real red flag didn't come as a joke. It came in the form of a text at 2 a.m. It was a Thursday night, around 2 a.m., and I woke up to the soft buzz of a text notification. Sophie's phone was lighting up on the nightstand. She wasn't in bed, said she couldn't sleep and had gone to get water. I sat up groggily, and before I could talk myself out of it, I glanced at the screen. The name said Jason, and the message just said, you looked incredible tonight. I can't stop thinking about it. My chest tightened. I knew it wasn't fair to jump to conclusions, so I waited. When she came back into the room, carrying a glass of water and humming like nothing had happened, I asked, hey, who's Jason? She paused. Just for a second, but long enough. Then, Jason? Oh, just a friend, from yoga. He's gay. Her tone was light, almost dismissive, but I caught the flicker in her eyes, that quick calculation people do when they're deciding how much of the truth to share. Oh, I said, pretending to sip my own water. You never mentioned him, she shrugged. I don't tell you about everyone I talk to. You'd think I was running a daycare, she laughed. I didn't. I wanted to believe her. Hell, maybe I needed to believe her. Because the truth meant something worse than betrayal. It meant I was right to fear the very thing I'd been mocked for. That night, I lay awake next to her, wide-eyed in the dark. Her breathing slowed. She slept easily. Meanwhile, my brain replayed that message over and over. You looked incredible tonight. She hadn't gone to yoga that day. We hadn't even left the apartment. I told myself maybe it was a message meant for someone else. A flirty friend, a joke. Anything to keep from unraveling. But that was the first moment I felt it. That slow, creeping certainty that something wasn't right. And the next crack in the illusion came from a name she forgot to mention. It happened at a rooftop barbecue with some of Sophie's old college friends. Wasn't even supposed to go, had a work project due, but she begged. Said it would mean a lot if I came. So I did. We were a few beers in and everyone was laughing, telling dumb college stories. I liked hearing about that side of her, the wild, reckless Sophie before she met me. Or at least that's what I thought I was hearing. Then someone, I think his name was Drew, said something that flipped my stomach. He laughed and said, "Remember when you and Travis used to scream at each other in front of the dorms? I swear I thought you were going to kill him one night." Everyone chuckled, except me. I looked at Sophie. She blinked, tilted her head, and forced a tight smile. "Oh, Travis?" That was barely a thing. College drama. I didn't press it there. But I felt like someone had slapped me. She never mentioned to Travis, not once. And certainly not someone she'd had public fights with. Later that night, back at our apartment, I brought it up gently. Was Travis serious? She rolled her eyes. God, why does it even matter? It was years ago. We weren't even a real couple. He was just intense. But you lived with him? I asked. Drew said. She cut me off. I can't believe you're still hung up on this. You're digging for drama. That's not fair. I dropped it. I shouldn't have, but I did. I wanted to believe her. That it was just a dumb college thing. Exaggerated by friends after a few drinks. But that night, when she fell asleep, I grabbed my phone and typed Travis, her last name, into Facebook. What I found was not some forgotten college fling. It was a full-on photo-documented relationship. Years long. Dozens of selfies, vacations, captions like "My Forever." And the worst part? Some of the photos were taken in my city. I stared at the photos for almost an hour. There they were, Sophie and Travis, locked in the kind of poses you only make with someone you really love. Arms around each other in Paris, kissing on a beach, laughing in what looked like a small apartment kitchen that weirdly resembled mine. One caption stood out like a punch to the gut. Home is wherever I'm with you. Posted just 3 years ago. That's not barely a thing. That's not college drama. That's a relationship. A serious live-in long-term relationship. I felt cold all over. Like the oxygen in the room had vanished. I kept scrolling, going deeper into the rabbit hole. I found a comment thread where someone mentioned Travis's arrest for drug possession. Another mentioned a fight he got into at a party where Sophie was supposedly thrown out too. I confronted her the next morning. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just sat her down and said, "Why didn't you tell me you lived with Travis for 3 years?" She didn't even blink. Just scoffed. Wow, so you've been stalking my exes now? That's healthy. I just needed answers, I said. I found photos. Oh my God, she snapped. That was a toxic relationship. I don't owe you the trauma tour. I couldn't believe how fast she flipped it on me. Is it trauma? I asked quietly. Or is it just something you didn't want me to know? She stood up, grabbed her bag, and said, "You're acting insane. I'm not going to let you punish me for having a past, but it wasn't her past I couldn't handle. It was the lies. She promised me a clean slate. No secrets. And now I couldn't stop wondering how many more things she hadn't told me. That was the moment I stopped trusting her. But the emotional manipulation? That was only just beginning. After that fight, she didn't apologize. She didn't even try to explain. Instead, Sophie started crying. Not quiet tears, loud theatrical sobs. The kind that make you feel like you've just punched a puppy. I guess I'm just a terrible person, huh? She said between sniffles. You probably think I'm some manipulative slut or something. I froze. I hadn't even raised my voice. She kept going. I try so hard to be enough for you. But no matter what I do, you just look at me like I'm trash. It was like she had flipped the script. Suddenly I was the bad guy, for daring to ask about a relationship she hid. I sat down beside her. My heart was pounding. Sophie, I don't think you're trash. I need honesty. That's all I've ever asked for. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and whispered, "Travis hurt me in ways I don't talk about. I don't want to remember him." So yeah, I didn't bring him up. Can you blame me? Now I was the one apologizing. I didn't know. I'm sorry if I pushed too hard. She leaned into me, wrapping her arms around my neck. I just want to be happy with you. Can we please stop digging up the past? And that was that. Or so I thought. After that day, her behavior changed. Subtly, at first. She stopped leaving her phone unattended, started taking late-night walks alone to clear her head, turned off read receipts on her texts. One day I came home and she was already back from work, showered and watching TV, something she never did before. 7, I asked, "You get off early?" She shrugged. Took a half day. Needed it, no explanation, no warning. Just walls going up everywhere. I knew something was happening. I could feel it in my chest, like a quiet dread I couldn't name. But I stayed quiet, because part of me still hoped she'd come clean on her own. Instead, what happened next hit me like a car crash. The message came from Paul, a friend of mine who worked security at a boutique hotel downtown. We hadn't spoken in a while, so when I saw his name pop up on my screen, I assumed it was just a random check-in, but his text stopped me cold. "Hey bro, not sure if this means anything, but I just saw someone who looked a lot like your girl walk in with a dude. Arm around her waist. Might not be her, but figured I'd say something." I couldn't move for a second. My throat went dry. I stared at the screen so long the text burned into my retinas. I called him. "You sure it was her?" Paul paused. "Dude." I didn't want to assume. But yeah, looked exactly like her. Same jacket. Red boots, right? Red boots. The same ones she said she bought for me to notice her more. I thanked him, hung up, and sat on the edge of the bed trying not to hyperventilate. She told me she was at girls' night, some new wine and paint thing her coworker invited her to. I drove to the hotel. I didn't even think about it. I just needed proof. I parked across the street, heart pounding, hands sweating. I waited. 30 minutes passed. Then I saw her. She came out of the elevator, laughing next to a tall guy with gym clothes and tattoos down both arms. His hand was on the small of her back like he owned her. They walked toward the hallway. He leaned in and kissed her cheek. She giggled and tugged on his sleeve. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I just sat there in my car, shaking, watching the woman I had planned to marry vanish down a hallway with another man. That was the moment everything inside me snapped. Not in rage, but in clarity. She wasn't going to confess. She wasn't going to stop. So if she wouldn't end it, I would. After that night, something inside me went silent. Not broken, just quiet. Like a storm that had burned itself out. I didn't confront her. I didn't cry. I didn't even tell anyone. I just started planning. Every day I came home and smiled like nothing was wrong. I kissed her on the forehead, asked about her day, cooked dinner together, all while mentally checking off a secret list. First, I started moving my important documents into a folder at work. Passport, certificates, bank papers. Then my laptop, my camera, a few sentimental things, slowly, subtly, so she'd never notice. Then I called Paul and asked for the hotel's security footage. He hesitated, but when I told him why, he said, "You deserve to know, man." The next morning, he handed me a USB. When I watched it that night, my hands trembled. It was her. Same red boots. Same jacket. Entering the elevator, fingers intertwined with that same tattooed guy. There was no doubt left to hide behind. I didn't rage or scream. I just exhaled, the longest, emptiest breath I've ever taken. Over the next few days, I copied every shred of proof I could find. Photos, receipts, timestamps, her messages that she forgot to delete from our shared tablet. She kept calling me paranoid, telling me I overthink everything. And every time she said that, I smiled, not because it didn't hurt, it did, but because she had no idea that every word, every lie, every smirk was digging her own grave. By day, I was the same fiancé who brought her coffee in bed. By night, I was quietly erasing myself from her life, and the night she made one cruel joke, the one that turned my disgust into decision, was the night I finally chose when and how to disappear. It was at a small house. Party Sophie insisted we attend, one of her co-workers' birthdays. I didn't want to go. I was exhausted from pretending everything was fine, but she said, "Come on, babe, we never go out anymore. Don't be boring." So I went. Everything was normal at first. Loud music, cheap wine, laughter bouncing off the walls. But then out of nowhere, she started making jokes again. Only this time, it was worse. Someone brought up cheating, some celebrity scandal, and Sophie, tipsy and glowing under the string lights, said loudly, "If I ever cheat, it'll be with someone rich." Might as well level up, right? Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I could feel the heat crawl up my neck. My jaw tightened. She looked at me across the table and winked. "Relax, babe. I'm kidding. Unless Chris Hemsworth walks in." Another wave of laughter. It wasn't funny. It was humiliating. And I realized something sickening in that moment. She enjoyed the power of making me uncomfortable. On the drive home, she noticed I was quiet. "Oh my God," she sighed. "Are you seriously mad about that joke?" "I just don't get why you'd say something like that," I said. "It's called humor," she snapped. "Try it sometime." We didn't talk the rest of the ride. That night, she passed out drunk, face down on the pillow, phone half under her hand. For 10 minutes, I just stared at her, the person I thought I knew. Then I did something I'd avoided for months. I picked up her phone. No password. She trusted me that much. Or maybe she just thought I'd never look. I opened her messages, scrolled past the usual friends. And then I saw it, a contact saved as Jimbro. The preview line said, "You wore that dress just to kill me, didn't you?" My heart slammed against my ribs. My fingers shook, and when I opened that chat, everything I'd been afraid of became real. The messages felt like a punch straight to the chest. There they were, dozens of texts, flirty, dirty, and completely unapologetic. The earliest ones were months old, right around the time she started yoga nights. "Can't stop thinking about you today. I miss your skin." And then, photos, selfies, some in our kitchen, our bed, our bathroom mirror. The timestamp burned itself into my brain. She'd sent them on nights she told me she was working late. Then I saw one that shattered me completely. It was a picture of me, asleep, my arm thrown across her waist. Her message under it said, "He has no clue. He still thinks I'm loyal, lol." I dropped the phone. My stomach lurched. I ran to the bathroom, locked the door, and just stared at myself in the mirror. My reflection looked like a ghost, pale, empty. I picked the phone back up and kept scrolling because I needed to see it all. I needed the truth, even if it destroyed me. She told him things like, "He's so boring. He acts like he's my dad. I'm just waiting until after the wedding to figure things out." After the wedding, that word burned. I had the venue booked, deposits paid, invitations drafted. My mom was counting down the days, and she was sleeping with some guy from the gym, mocking me, planning a future built on lies. I sat there until dawn, phone in hand, numb. When she stirred awake and mumbled, "Morning," I just watched her roll over, smiling in her sleep. I felt nothing. Not hate, not sadness, just a hollow calm, because in that moment I knew something she didn't. The engagement was already over, she just didn't know it yet. And that night, I decided exactly how she'd find out. That night, while she slept soundly beside me, I began my quiet escape. It was 2:17 a.m. The house was dark, silent except for the low hum of the fridge and her slow, even breathing. I moved like a ghost. First, I packed the essentials: documents, laptop, my grandmother's watch, and the few clothes that actually felt like mine. Every zipper and rustle felt deafening. Every creak in the floorboard made my pulse spike. I wasn't running away in shame. I was reclaiming something she'd chipped away at piece by piece. My peace. My dignity. By 3:00, I had my suitcase ready by the door. I went to the nightstand, pulled off the engagement ring she'd left there earlier, and placed it beside her phone. It glimmered faintly in the dark, mocking the illusion it once stood for. I wrote a single line on a sticky note. "You lied, so I left. Don't contact me." I stuck it beside the ring, simple, final. Before leaving, I looked around the apartment, our plants, our photos. The framed print she'd said symbolized forever. I remembered how proud we were the day we signed the lease together. That version of us was gone now. I opened the door. suitcase rolling quietly behind me. When the cold night air hit my face, I almost cried. But the tears didn't come. Just a deep, aching exhale. By 4:30 a.m., I was gone. I didn't take her calls. Didn't answer her texts. Didn't tell anyone, I just drove. Through empty streets, past flickering streetlights, until the city faded in my rearview mirror. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't closure. It was freedom. And the next morning when she woke up, the silence she'd always mocked me for would be the only thing waiting for her. She called 42 times before noon. The first few were just missed calls. Then came the voicemails, each one more chaotic than the last. "Where are you? Babe, please call me. I'm freaking out. You can't just leave. What the hell is going on? This is insane. You're being insane." "Talk to me, please. I'm sorry, okay?" Then came the texts. Dozens of them. Long walls of panic, confusion, guilt-tripping, gaslighting. "You're overreacting. We can fix this. Please don't be dramatic. If you leave now, you're throwing away everything we built. You ruined us." I said nothing. I let her spiral. At 1:13 p.m., I sent one final message. Check the shared drive. Don't contact me again. The shared drive was the digital coffin I had built while pretending to be her loyal fiancé. Inside it were screenshots of her texts with Jim Bro, hotel receipts, time-stamped photos, her little flirty captions, all of it, carefully organized in folders titled Loyalty, Honesty, and Clean Slate. I had even included the hotel surveillance footage Paul gave me. She always said she liked when things were well put together. 2 hours passed. No response. Then finally a single message. "You were spying on me? You're sick. No apology. No remorse. Just a pivot. A counterattack." Classic Sophie, I blocked her. Everywhere. Phone, socials, email. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I sat in silence and felt nothing. No guilt. No second-guessing, just the strange, unfamiliar feeling of relief. She had spent months treating my love like a joke, and now she was left talking to no one. No explanation. No closure. No audience, just an empty house. And a digital graveyard of her own deception. The next few days were quiet. Almost too quiet. Then the spiral began. She created a new email just to bypass the block. It started with guilt. "Please, I need help. I'm spiraling. I've booked a therapy session. I'm trying to fix myself." I didn't respond. Then came blame. "You always looked for a reason to leave." I should have seen it coming. "You were never really in this." Then begging. "Can we just talk?" 1 hour, 1 coffee. "You owe me that much." I didn't owe her anything. I left every message unread, every plea unanswered. I didn't even feel tempted. She tried calling my brother, my friends, even messaged my mom, who knew only the bare minimum, asking her to help bring us back together. Everyone ignored her. I had already warned them, and then, like a flicked switch, the mask came off. "You were never man enough for me anyway. Good luck finding someone who'll put up with your control issues. I cheated because you were boring, emotionally dead." I read those messages with the same detachment you feel reading a stranger's rant online. There was no sadness left. No anger even. Just a quiet confirmation of who she really was. I realized then that I hadn't just dodged a bullet. I had escaped a slow, emotional death. The kind where your self-worth erodes piece by piece until you forget who you were before them. The lies. The gaslighting. The twisted way she made me question reality. This wasn't heartbreak. It was freedom. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't need her to understand what she did because I finally understood myself, and as her tantrums faded into digital silence, I started confronting the one person I'd been avoiding this whole time. Me. I moved into my brother's spare room after I left. It was small, barely fit my suitcase and laptop, but it was safe, quiet, clean. The kind of silence that didn't make me feel like I was being watched or judged. The first few nights were the worst. I'd lie awake, eyes burning from the screen of my phone, rereading old texts between me and Sophie, the early ones back when I believed every word. Back when I thought she was someone who loved me. I didn't eat much, couldn't focus on work. I'd go to respond to an email and end up staring at the blinking cursor for 20 minutes, trying not to cry. But what hurt more than her cheating was the fact that I let it happen. Not the act, but everything before it, the jokes I let slide. The secrets I brushed off, the gut instincts I silenced just to keep the peace. One night, my brother knocked on my door. "You need anything, man?" I shook my head. "Just some air." Instead, I stayed up and opened a blank Google Doc. I started writing. Not for anyone else, just for me. Every lie she told, every time she turned things around on me, every night I laid in bed wondering if I was crazy for feeling suspicious, and as the list grew longer, something in me began to click. This wasn't just about cheating. This was about erosion, slow, deliberate, quiet. She didn't steal my peace all at once. She chipped away at it with sarcasm, with secrets, with a smile that made me doubt my own reality. I finally saw the pattern, the manipulation, the emotional suffocation, and I realized I wasn't healing from a breakup. I was recovering from abuse. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept without waking up in a cold sweat, because now that I had hit rock bottom, there was nowhere to go but up. A few weeks after moving out, I started therapy. I didn't go because I wanted to talk about her. I went because I couldn't recognize myself anymore. I told the therapist everything, the lies, the emotional whiplash, the nights I stayed silent just to avoid a fight. She listened quietly, then said something I'll never forget. "You didn't lose love. You lost control that was never yours to begin with. And just like that, I broke." All those months I thought I was keeping the peace, being understanding, trying to fix things. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just surviving. Every version of me that tried to make it work with Sophie had been slowly dying behind the scenes, so I blocked her number. For real this time, deleted, gone. No more peeking. No more just curious. 2 weeks later, I got a DM from someone I didn't recognize, Jim Bro himself. His name was Chris. "Hey man," he wrote. "I didn't know she was engaged. I just found out. I'm really sorry. If I had known, I never would have gone near her," he attached. Screenshots, conversations where she told him we were on a break, that I was abusive, and that she was stuck with me for financial reasons. It was surreal, not painful, just validating. She'd lied to him too. And guess what? He dumped her. The final text he sent me was simple. "She lost both of us." "That's on her," I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That part of my life was done, and for the first time in months, I felt something new rising inside me. Not anger. Not revenge. Just this quiet, solid power. I didn't win. I walked away. And sometimes that's the loudest victory of all, but there was one final step left before I could fully close that chapter. I had to return to the place where it all began. I walked back into that apartment nearly 2 months after I'd left it, not because I missed it, because I needed to reclaim it. The lease was in my name. She'd finally moved out after weeks of ignored notices and quiet pressure from my lawyer. The key was still under the mat, right where I'd left it. I opened the door slowly, half expecting some emotional ambush. But all I found was a quiet, half-empty space. The couch was gone. A few mugs were missing. But the walls? Still covered in the same paint we chose together. The bookshelf? Still had my old sci-fi novels she once called childish. The bathroom? My towel, my razor, untouched, and the bedroom. That was the hardest part. I stood at the foot of the bed and stared at the empty mattress. The place where she'd taken selfies for someone else. The place where I once imagined waking up beside her for the rest of my life. Then I ripped the sheets off, hauled the mattress out, threw away the pillows, burned them in the fire pit behind the building. Literal ash, just like the promises she made. Over the next week, I repainted every wall, bought new curtains, swapped the photos. I even replaced the plates, because I couldn't stand the idea of eating off dishes we once shared. Piece by piece, I reclaimed my home, not just physically, emotionally. I filled the silence with my own music, slept diagonally across the bed, started cooking again, and you know what? The quiet didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like freedom. I still hear her voice sometimes, in memory, in dreams, in the quiet moments before sleep. But I don't miss her. I miss who I thought she was. She woke up to an empty house, and I woke up to a version of myself I thought I'd lost. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken, I'm just done. And for the first time in a long, long time, that feels like enough.